Welcome to Revenge with Destiny. Wherever you are tuning in from, London, Lagos, Dallas, or Manila, sit back and imagine a world where arrogance and entitlement meet their inevitable reckoning. Before the story begins, leave a comment below telling us where you are watching from, and consider, if someone began dismantling everything you had ever taken for granted, what would you do? Fight back, adapt, or finally face the truth? The Virex family had lived for appearances. Selim Virex, tall and impeccably dressed, carried himself with the certainty of someone born to command. Marowyn, his wife, floated through every social gathering with the expectation that the world would bend to her desires. Elowyn, their daughter, spent hours scrolling through her curated online presence, convinced that influence and admiration were her birthright. Their lives were built on a delicate pyramid of privilege, ego, and carefully constructed illusions. They did not notice Lysandra at first. She was quiet, observing the family from the periphery, cataloging every indulgence, every careless decision, every spark of arrogance. She did not confront them immediately. Lysandra understood patience, and she understood the fragile nature of entitlement. She watched Calum boast about investments that had never been secure. Marowyn deride charity events without genuine interest in the causes, and Elowyn flaunt luxuries she could not fully afford. Each action, each word, each laugh was a brick in the wall that would eventually imprison them. The first subtle disruptions were barely noticeable. An investor withdrew quietly, citing vague concerns about mismanagement. A key supplier arrived late to an event Marowyn had organized, creating minor chaos. Elowyn noticed anonymous messages challenging her self-proclaimed influence. The Virexes dismissed these incidents, calling them coincidences, and carried on with their lives, blind to the orchestration unfolding around them. Then the pressure began to build. Calum received an unexpected email revealing minor irregularities in one of his largest investment accounts. He assumed it was a clerical error and called his assistant, only to learn the account had been quietly frozen. Panic flickered in his eyes, but he forced calm, masking the unease from Marowyn and Elowyn. Marowyn, meanwhile, faced social sabotage. Invitations she had sent to prominent guests were misdelivered. Venues were double booked. Subtle online rumors questioned her judgment, diminishing her social credibility. She could feel her influence slipping, but could not pinpoint why. Elowyn found herself publicly ridiculed on social media. Anonymous posts paired with carefully leaked personal photos questioned her wealth, taste, and authenticity. Her followers dwindled. Her curated image cracked under pressure. By now, the Virexes began to suspect that someone was orchestrating these failures, but suspicion alone could not protect them. Each new event, each minor humiliation, was part of a meticulously designed plan to dismantle their sense of security and self-importance. Pause for a moment. Wherever you are watching, imagine your life unraveling piece by piece, your friends turning away, your influence evaporating, your wealth inaccessible. How would you respond if someone had calculated every move to ensure your downfall? Drop a comment below telling us what you would do. Would you fight, hide, or accept the consequences? The psychological pressure escalated. Salem, frantic, made repeated calls to investors and suppliers, only to find doors closed and excuses ready. Each reaction he had was anticipated and countered. Marowyn confronted former allies at social events, but their responses were polite refusals or subtle avoidance. Elowyn attempted to rebuild her online image, posting carefully curated updates, but each post was undercut by leaks and messages highlighting her past indulgences and irresponsibility. By the end of the first month, the Virex family's once unassailable social status began to crumble. Invitations to exclusive events were rescinded. Investors expressed concerns that led to financial withdrawals. Public opinion, once favorable, began to question their credibility. The cracks in the facade widened, leaving the Virexes exposed. Lysandra observed all of this with clinical precision. She did not need to intervene with overt force. She let their arrogance, entitlement, and mistakes compound. Each small failure, each misstep, each reaction fed the next stage of her plan. Within 6 weeks, the financial consequences became impossible to ignore. Selim's investments, long believed secure, were shown to be mismanaged. Accounts were frozen, access to funds was restricted. Marowyn's social capital, once her greatest weapon, had been quietly undermined to the point where her gatherings went unremarked upon, or were sparsely attended. Elowen's influence waned online, her followers dropping as anonymity revealed her contradictions. The family's first confrontation with reality came quietly in a rented apartment in Mesquite. The space was modest, starkly different from the sprawling estate they had once called home. Humility forced itself upon them. Caleb's pride was bruised, Merowyn's composure was cracked, and Elowen's vanity found no place to flourish. Lysandra visited them at this point, calm and deliberate. "Do you understand now?" she asked. "Do you see the consequences of living as though the world owes you obedience?" Selim tried to speak. "This isn't fair." "No," Lysandra replied evenly. "Fairness is not what you seek in life. You lived for indulgence, influence, and appearances. Every humiliation, every loss you experience now is the natural consequence of your choices. I merely ensured it could not be avoided." The apartment in Mesquite felt impossibly small to the Virexes. The air was thick with the realization that nothing here belonged to them. The pristine marble counters, the imported rugs, the climate-controlled rooms, they were memories now, replaced with bland furniture, beige walls, and the hum of an old air conditioner. Kylam paced the living room, hands pressed against his forehead. Each step echoed off the empty walls, a harsh reminder that no one waited on him anymore. Merowyn sat on the single couch, clutching a throw pillow as though it could absorb the weight of her panic. She glanced at Elowen, whose fingers nervously tapped on the table, trying to distract herself from the sharp reality pressing down on all of them. No one spoke at first. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the laughter and music that had once filled their mansion. It was Lysandra who broke the quiet, standing at the threshold with calm precision. She did not raise her voice. She did not scold or taunt. Her presence alone commanded attention. "Your choices brought you here," she said evenly. "Everything you believed was untouchable. Your wealth, your influence, your reputation was never as secure as you thought." Caleb's chest tightened. "You? You can't just do this. We have contacts, lawyers. This isn't over." "No," Lysandra replied. "It is over. You had every opportunity to act responsibly, but arrogance blinded you. I only ensured the truth could no longer be avoided." Her eyes met each of theirs, sharp and unyielding. "And now the consequences are unavoidable." The following week, reality sank in further. Every aspect of the Virex's former life was gone. Invitations to elite social events were no longer sent. Vendors previously eager to work with Merowyn now politely declined. Elowen's online presence, once curated with meticulous care, faced relentless exposure. Anonymous accounts shared her missteps, contrasting the image she had built with moments of poor judgment, overindulgence, and carelessness. Selim tried to salvage some dignity through his investments. He called old business associates, sent urgent emails, and attempted frantic negotiations. Each door closed. Every line of communication revealed that trust, respect, and influence had evaporated. Allies had aligned elsewhere, subtly warned off or guided by the very same hand that had orchestrated their downfall. Then came the public exposure. Social media posts captured Selim venting in a cafe about a minor inconvenience, a short video clip that went viral within hours. Merowyn's failed event was quietly leaked online, accompanied by comments highlighting the poor organization and social awkwardness. Elowen's online interactions were documented, edited, and broadcasted in ways that exposed her immaturity and entitlement. The Virex family, once untouchable in social circles, were now subjects of public ridicule. They turned inward, bickering among themselves. Merowyn accused Caleb of failing to secure their wealth. Selim blamed Merowyn for wasting influence and alienating allies. Elowen, once self-absorbed but confident, became paranoid and insecure, lashing out at anyone who questioned her choices. The unity of the family dissolved under pressure, and Lysandra watched, unflinching. A month into their Mesquite exile, a letter arrived, handwritten on high-quality stationery. It was addressed to all three family members. "You have been given every opportunity to act responsibly. You failed. This is your reckoning. Every choice you made has consequences, and every privilege you believed was guaranteed was an illusion. Consider this a final reminder that life does not bend to entitlement." No signature appeared, but the handwriting was unmistakable to them. Their hearts sank. They realized someone had orchestrated every step of their collapse with precision. Someone who had anticipated every reaction, every misstep, every desperate attempt at control. Take a moment to reflect. Imagine everything you've ever taken for granted being stripped away, not through accident, but by someone who knows exactly how to dismantle your life. Where are you watching from, and what would you do if you were in the Virex family's place? Comment below. Your answers might surprise you. The psychological toll became unbearable. Selim began to experience panic attacks, sitting at the kitchen table for hours without speaking, eyes fixed on nothing, thoughts racing. Merowyn developed sleepless nights, staring at the ceiling while imagining the social disgrace she had once thought impossible. Elowyn's confidence shattered entirely. Her online accounts were taken over, and she was forced to confront the reality that influence without substance was meaningless. Then came the carefully orchestrated encounters. Lysandra arranged meetings where vendors subtly criticized their former choices, journalists questioned their credibility, and former friends feigned concern while undermining them. Each interaction, while polite on the surface, inflicted psychological damage, reinforcing the consequences of entitlement. The Virexes attempted to strike back, but every effort was preemptively countered. Calum tried to regain financial stability, but hidden information and frozen accounts blocked him at every turn. Merowyn attempted social rehabilitation only to be subtly humiliated in public. Elowyn sought to rebuild her online presence only to have each post contradicted by strategically leaked evidence. Lysandra's brilliance lay in her patience. She did not rush. She did not need to. The collapse was methodical, relentless, and inevitable. Every small failure fed the next stage of psychological unraveling. By the time the Virexes recognized they were under siege, it was too late. Eventually, the family was forced to confront the limits of their power. Mosquito became their permanent address for the next 6 months, a stark contrast to the sprawling mansion they had once dominated. Their pride was gone, their illusions of control shattered. Their entitlement, once unassailable, proved to be their undoing. The Mosquito apartment became a prison of reflection for the Virexes. The space was small, functional, and utterly devoid of luxury, but it forced them to confront reality in ways the mansion never had. Calum tried to assert control, pacing the narrow living room, making lists and calling old associates in desperate attempts to reclaim lost influence. But each attempt was met with polite refusals, bureaucratic delays, and pointed warnings. The invisible hand that had dismantled their world remained unseen but omnipresent, orchestrating every obstacle with precision. Merowyn, who had once wielded social gatherings as weapons of influence, discovered that no one responded to her invitations or calls. Events she had planned fell flat. Social media posts highlighting her gatherings went largely ignored or subtly ridiculed. She became obsessed with appearances in Mesquite, meticulously cleaning the small apartment, arranging furniture and polishing surfaces as if maintaining control here could compensate for what they had lost outside. Elowyn's collapse was the most visible. Her online accounts, once filled with thousands of followers, became the battleground of whispers and mockery. Anonymous accounts circulated videos of her carelessness and indulgence, highlighting every moment she had flaunted wealth and privilege. She scrolled endlessly, her eyes hollow, as the realization sank in that influence without substance was meaningless. Lysandra watched all of this unfold quietly, letting her victims confront the consequences themselves. She did not need to strike directly. The psychological pressure alone was enough. Each family member was cornered by their own past, their own arrogance, and their own vanity. The next stage of the plan involved subtle, public humiliation. Lysandra orchestrated situations where the Virexes' mistakes were highlighted in front of others without their knowledge. Selim, attempting to make a financial presentation to a group of potential investors, was undermined by anonymous tips and exposed mismanagement. Merowyn, attending a charity gala, found her event described online as poorly executed and wasteful. Elowyn, entering a social media contest to regain influence, found herself mocked publicly for her lack of authenticity and substance. By the 3rd month, the Virexes' reputation had eroded entirely. Social circles that once venerated them now whispered about their decline. Suppliers, investors, and acquaintances avoided them, and every attempt to regain control seemed to accelerate their downfall. Their own family dynamic began to fracture under the weight of stress and humiliation. Arguments became daily occurrences. Calum accused Merowyn of failing to maintain social connections. Merowyn blamed Calum for financial missteps. Elowyn lashed out at both parents, overwhelmed with panic and shame. In the background, Lysandra remained patient, observing every interaction, cataloging every weakness, and planning the next move. Then came the public reckoning. Videos of Selim arguing with service staff, poorly edited photos of Merowyn's failed events, and evidence of Elowyn's online misconduct were strategically leaked across social media and local news outlets. Within hours, the family became the subject of viral discussion, their missteps scrutinized and laughed at by hundreds of thousands. Invitations to any event vanished entirely. Their credibility in the business community evaporated. It was not just financial ruin. They were experiencing social and emotional collapse. They began to realize that the life they had taken for granted, a life built on privilege, indulgence, and appearances, was now irretrievably gone. The apartment in Mesquite became a small cage of reflection and shame. Imagine losing everything you thought defined you, your money, your status, your reputation. How would you react if someone orchestrated your downfall so perfectly that every misstep you made was exposed? Comment below to share what you would do. Remember, new stories are posted every Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time, and you won't want to miss the next tale of reckoning. The final blows were psychological. Lysandra began sending subtle, anonymous reminders to each family member. Financial statements showing frozen accounts, social media posts highlighting every past indulgence, and letters reminding them that their arrogance had consequences. The family began turning on one another, internalizing the humiliation. Merowyn lashed out at Elowyn for exposing herself online, while Calum's panic attacks worsened as he tried to reconcile the collapse of his financial empire. Lysandra arranged one final encounter in the Mosquito apartment. She entered, calm and deliberate, carrying folders, printed emails, and photographs. The family tensed immediately. "You are finally here," Merowyn snapped. "To what do we owe the pleasure?" Lysandra's expression remained neutral. "To clarity," she said. "Every step you have taken, every indulgence, every arrogant belief has been catalogued. Every weakness has been anticipated. You are here because you failed to recognize the fragility of your privilege." Calum tried to speak, but Lysandra cut him off. "There is nothing you can say to undo the consequences of your choices. Your friends, your investments, your social influence, they are gone because they were never yours to begin with." Elowyn's voice trembled. We can fight this. We can rebuild. We can—" "No," Lysandra interrupted. "You will rebuild only by acknowledging your failures, only by understanding the price of entitlement. Every discomfort, every humiliation, every loss you have suffered is a lesson you refused to learn while living in your mansion. Now you must live it fully." The family sat in stunned silence. For the first time, the walls of pride, influence, and entitlement they had built crumbled entirely. By the 4th month, the Mosquito apartment felt like a prison for the Virex family. The sterile, beige walls reflected their stripped-down existence. No luxury, no prestige, no hidden influence. Their every move was measured, every decision shadowed by past failures. They had grown restless, anxious, and desperate. Calum spent hours staring at financial statements he could no longer manipulate, watching numbers he once took for granted dwindle to near zero. He called investors, pleading for forgiveness, offering promises he could no longer keep. Every phone call ended in polite refusals or, more often, hung-up lines. He realized with growing horror that loyalty bought with arrogance was fleeting, and influence built on appearances alone was meaningless. Merowyn attempted to retain some semblance of control by hosting small gatherings, hoping to maintain social credibility. Invitations to her carefully arranged teas were met with polite declines, veiled excuses, and snide remarks in private circles. Word of their downfall spread faster than they could counter, amplified by strategically leaked videos and posts. Elowyn's online empire had completely collapsed. Anonymous accounts circulated stories of her extravagance, her spoiled demeanor, and moments of carelessness caught on camera. Every attempt she made to post glamorous updates was undercut by comments exposing her vulnerabilities. Even her closest online followers began to mock and doubt her authenticity. Then came the first public confrontation. A local social influencer, tipped anonymously, documented a minor incident at a grocery store. Selim argued over a price discrepancy, Merowyn fretted about expired products, and Elowyn reacted with dramatic frustration. The influencer uploaded a video titled Virex Family Meltdown, Entitlement Exposed. Within hours, the video went viral, spreading across social media like wildfire. Comments ranged from amusement to disbelief at the family's fall from grace. The psychological impact was immediate. The Virexes were forced to confront the reality that their lives were no longer private. Every action, every misstep, every emotional outburst was amplified for public consumption. Their humiliation became entertainment for thousands, a daily reminder of the consequences of arrogance and negligence. Lysandra's orchestration was evident but never overt. She did not appear in the videos. She did not confront them publicly. Her revenge was surgical, precise, and unstoppable because it relied on truth, timing, and the predictable behavior of the entitled. Each family member's reaction, amplified and exposed, furthered the unraveling. Weeks passed. The apartment became a prison of reflection and tension. Arguments erupted over trivial matters. Selim's panic over bills, Merowyn's obsession with appearances, Elowyn's insistence on regaining online credibility. Each quarrel reinforced the weight of their collapse. Then came the final, calculated move. Lysandra arranged a private meeting with all three Virexes. She did not raise her voice. She did not threaten. Her presence alone was enough to command attention. She carried folders detailing financial mismanagement, emails exposing social manipulations, and a series of printed screenshots highlighting their online indiscretions. "You have had every opportunity to act responsibly," Lysandra said, her voice calm but unyielding. "You refused. This is the natural consequence. Every indulgence, every lapse of judgment, every arrogance-driven decision has led here. And now you must confront the full weight of your actions." Selim tried to respond, stammering, This isn't fair. Lysandra cut him off. "Fair? You spent years living as though the world owed you fairness. You have learned that reality is indifferent to entitlement." Merowyn's lips trembled as she whispered, "What do you want from us?" "Understanding," Lysandra said. "You will rebuild, if at all, only by facing the truth. Every step backward, every humiliation, every loss is part of your education in humility." The final humiliation was orchestrated with precision. Anonymous tips were sent to the media, exposing their financial mismanagement, extravagant spending, and social arrogance. The Virexes found themselves on local news segments, discussed on social media podcasts, and parodied online. Each post and article highlighted not just their mistakes, but their continued inability to adapt. Even their social circles abandoned them. Former friends called under the guise of concern, only to distance themselves after subtle manipulations revealed the Virex's failures. Vendors and suppliers refused service. Invitations to events were rescinded. The family, once untouchable in their circle of privilege, faced ostracization on all fronts. Psychologically, the effect was devastating. Selim's panic attacks worsened, leaving him sleepless and irritable. Merowyn's obsessive cleaning and organization could no longer stave off anxiety. Elowyn's confidence shattered entirely, and she withdrew from social media, ashamed of her public exposure. Wherever you are watching, imagine your life being dismantled piece by piece, not by accident, but by someone who knows exactly how to push every weakness. What would you do if you were the Virex family? Comment below with your thoughts. And remember, new stories are posted every Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time. You won't want to miss the next story of reckoning. Lysandra's revenge reached its final phase. She delivered the ultimate financial reality. All access to wealth, accounts, and assets controlled by the Virexes was frozen, redistributed, or liquidated. Debts were highlighted, leases revoked, and legal consequences carefully documented. The family could no longer argue or evade. They had no resources, no support, and no recourse. They were forced to downsize completely. Their mosquito apartment was modest but sufficient, a stark contrast to the mansion they had once dominated. They were provided only the essentials, a place to sleep, food for survival, and minimal assistance in finding employment. Humility became not just a lesson, but a requirement. The Virexes' personal relationships were further fractured. Longtime friends abandoned them. Social influence disappeared. Each attempt to rebuild ended in failure. exposing the fragility of lives built on entitlement rather than merit. Lysandra watched, quiet and composed. She did not revel in malice. She understood the true power of justice, karma, and consequence. Her work was complete when the family no longer blamed external forces, but began to confront themselves. Only then did the lesson become clear. Arrogance, entitlement, and deception have their price. The final confrontation was quiet but decisive. Lysandra presented the family with one last document, a simple summary of all their actions, missteps, and consequences. She did not demand apologies. She did not raise her voice. The weight of truth hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Merowyn finally admitted in a trembling voice that she had allowed vanity to dictate choices. Selim acknowledged the arrogance that led him to overextend financially and socially. Elowyn recognized her obsession with appearances over substance. The family, stripped of everything, faced themselves with unflinching honesty. Lysandra offered guidance, not as reward, but as a path forward. The apartment lease was extended 6 months, minimal financial assistance was provided, and practical advice on earning independence and stability was shared. The lesson was final and immutable. Growth and redemption come only through self-awareness, accountability, and effort. Wherever you are watching from, take a moment to reflect on this story. What would you do if someone meticulously dismantled everything you had built? Could you face your mistakes, or would you collapse under the weight of your own choices? Leave a comment below. Your perspective matters. Don't forget, new stories are posted every Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time, and you won't want to miss the next story of revenge, reckoning, and redemption.